Napoleon Memoirs. Hope you're all having a great night. So we're going to jump right in to the memoirs of Napoleon's poisoner, Count Charles Tristan de Monson. And at this point, all the criminals are driving Napoleon from France because Napoleon was getting in the way of their money making. Okay, so whilst the Duke was writing, his colleagues had not attempted to break the silence. General Carnot was walking gloomily and in silence up and down the room. The Duke of Vicenza, Baron Quinet, and General Grenier sat silently around the table. General Becker turned upon them a last look of entreaty. He read in their countenances that the resolution was taken, and receiving the letter from the hands of the Duke, he left them with his heart filled with grief. In the antechamber, I didn't even turn the thing on. Okay. Whilst the Duke was writing, his colleagues had not attempted to break the silence. General Carnot was walking gloomily and in silence up and down the room. The Duke of Vicenza, Baron Quinet, and General Grenier sat silently around the table. General Becker turned upon them a last look of entreaty. He read in their countenances that their resolution was taken, and receiving the letter from the hands of the Duke, he left them with his heart filled with grief. In the antechamber and in the waiting rooms, he found an eager multitude of generals and high dignitaries of the empire, anxious at not seeing the enemy already at the gates of the capital, but at hearing that the emperor was still so near them, there was but one cry: "Let him set off, let him go. We can undertake nothing, either for his personal advantage or for the good of Paris." He left these persons to reap the effects of the disgraceful language of which they were making use, rushed out of the Tuileries and entered one of the court carriages which had been placed at his disposal by the Duke of Vicenza Calancourt. This carriage brought him as far as the Point Tenay. He crossed the Seine in the same manner as previously, and at the other side he found his own carriage waiting. Half an hour afterwards he entered the courtyard of Malmaison. Here great movement might be remarked among carriages and officers on horseback. Monsieur de Monteron, the Emperor's equerry, happening to pass at the moment, General Becker inquired the cause of the stir, and was informed that the Emperor was preparing to set off to join the army. He had not doubted a moment that his offer would be accepted, and had made all preparations in advance. This sight was almost as sorrowful as that which had afflicted the eyes of General Becker in the antechamber of the Tuileries. He considered that he was about to extinguish this last spark of hope and glory by a single word. He prepared Monsieur de Monteron to expect other orders, and entered the Emperor's apartment. The Emperor was alone in his cabinet. He was dressed in a brown coat, white small clothes, and jack boots, evidently a riding costume. "Well," said Napoleon eagerly. "Sire," answered General Becker, "in presenting myself before your Majesty with this air of affliction, which you cannot fail to remark, I consider it that I have sufficiently explained to you that I have not succeeded in my mission. Here is a note for the Duke of Bassano from the Duke of Otranto, Fouché, President of the Committee of Government. It will explain to your Majesty the reasons which are opposed to the execution of your project." I requested this letter in order to prove to your majesty that I have used all my efforts to induce the provisional government to accept your offer, as I do not see the Duke of Bassano here, I commit this letter to your hands, assuring you at the same time that the provisional government is very anxious to hear that your majesty has set off for Rochefort, for it appears that the enemy is advancing rapidly upon Saint-Germain and Versailles, and the least delay may endanger your personal safety. He then related to him the whole scene as it had occurred. The emperor listened in moody silence. Then, with his general calmness of reflection upon subjects merely personal to himself, he said, "These people do not understand the state of men's minds when they refuse my offer. They will repent of having done so." And without a single muscle of his countenance betraying his emotion, he added, "Give the necessary orders for my departure, and when all is ready, you will inform me." The delay was not long. An hour after General Becker returned, a calèche and four had been got ready, and they only waited for the emperor. So sad. I hope we don't do this again. I really do, and that is exactly why I do this. So people who say what came later, they just started killing people right after this. Very patriotic, good people started getting murdered after this. As soon as they got Napoleon out of the way, they could do everything that they wanted to do all along. And they like to kill good people. And everybody knows how the last 200 years have been and how many people have died under this regime. All right, now it's time for Las Casas in Italian, where we try to figure out how to pronounce things in Italian. It's not that easy. Hopefully we're all learning together. Okay. Okay. L'imperatore era riservato per leggerlo. Ecco un articolo dal giornale relativo alla carrozza da lui perduta a Waterloo, perché le molte parole tecniche gli rendevano troppo difficili l'interpretazione. Il giornalista descriveva a minuto la carrozza e offriva un singolare inventario di tutto ciò che vi si era trovato, aggiungendo spesso i più plateali riflessi, facendo menzione d'un vasellino da liquore. Notava come l'imperatore non dimenticava se stesso e lasciava che alcuna cosa gli mancasse, agitando certi squisiti eleganze del suo necessario. Avvertiva come risultasse da ciò che Napoleone faceva la sua acconciatura un homme comme il faut. Da grandi signori, l'espressione era in francese. Quest'ultima frase eccitò nell'imperatore un'emozione che nessun'altra maggiore avrebbe stato un più grave soggetto, e che mai dissemi con un so qual disgustoso dolore che mai pensa di me il popolo inglese, pensa forse che io sia una fiera, e egli è stato veramente fino a questo punto traviato dall'opinione, ha pure il suo principio legale, specie di voi abbi, per quanto mi si dice, non si avviglia forse come ciascuno di noi che abbia ricevuto un qualche educazione, certo è che io sarai stato molto impacciato a chiarirgli ciò che il giornalista sebbe in animo di dire con quelle parole. È noto, d'altra parte, che l'imperatore era così fatto da curare meno di qualsiasi altro i suoi comodi, nulla quasi badando alla propria persona, compiacevasi però nel dire che nessun altro principi fu più di lui circondato da tanti e si affettuosi sugli cittadini dei suoi cortigiani, essendo egli uso a cibarsi ad ori e regolarissimo, si era nullameno trovato modo che negli suoi corsi e nei suoi viaggi avesse sempre in pronto il pranzo somigliantissimo a quello della Tuileries. Egli non aveva che ad aprir bocca per sé, piuttosto servito, la qual cosa, al suo dire, aveva dal incantevole bel corso di 15 anni, ai bevi sempre il medesimo vino di Borgogna, Chambertin, da lui prediletto e creduto salutare. Questo vino travavasi per lui in tutta la Germania, nell'estremità della Spagna, ovunque, fino a Mosca. E veramente più dirsi che le arti, lussi, la squisitezza del vivere eleganti e del buon gusto facevano a gara per procacciargli a sua inasputa un qualche nuovo godimento. Il giornalista inglese descriveva una varietà di oggetti che si saranno per avventura trovati nella carrozza, ma dei quali l'imperatore non aveva notizia alcuna, finché dicesse di non meravigliarsene. Il cattivo tempo che ci obbligava a starsene rinchiusi non ha per nulla influito sull'umore di Napoleone, anzi in questi giorni ha dimostrato maggiori espansioni e parlò più dell'ordinario. Discorsi a lungo e per minuto del celebre convegno di Dresda. Eccone il riassunto. Questo convegno segnò l'epoca della maggior possanza di Napoleone. Egli vi apparve il re dei re. Si era veduto obbligato a manifestare che conveniva occuparsi dell'imperatore d'Austria, suo succero, questo sovrano, al pari del re di Prussia, non aveva alcun seguito. Alessandro lo aveva avuto maggior a Tilsit ed ad Erfurt. Quel corti, diceva l'imperatore, erano mescini e cittadine sciaregli che ne stabiliva e divani il tono. Piacevasi cedere il passo all'imperatore Francesco. A questi se ne mostrava innamorato ed estatico. Il lusso di Napoleone e la sua magnificenza dovettero farlo apparire un re d'Asia, quivi come a Tilsit sopracaricò di diamanti tutti quelli che la costeranno. Noi gli famo conoscere come a Dresda non avevo a lui presso neppure un soldato francese a propria custodia, a tal che la sua corte non fu senza inquietudini sul suo conto. Egli non voleva aggiustare effetti alle nostre parole, ma noi l'assicuriamo che in quel tempo ebbe un'unica difesa. Le guardie del corpo sassoni e tutt'uno, diceva l'imperatore. Allora io mi trovavo in sì buona famiglia, con persone tanto da bene che non correva alcun pericolo. Tutti mi amavano ed in questi momenti medesimo sono certo che il buon re di Sassonia recita ciascun giorno un pater ed un ave per me. Lo sacrificai, aggiungeva egli i destini della screziata e buona principessa Augusta e ne provo il più vivo rammarico di ritorno da Tilsit. Io ricevetti a Marienwerder un ciambellano del re di Sassonia, il quale mi consegnò una lettera del suo padrone. Egli mi scriveva in questi termini: lo ricevetti. Ora una lettera dell'imperatore d'Austria, con cui mi chiedi, mia figlia, in sposa. Io vi la mando perché mi dettiate la risposta che devo dargli. Sarò fra pochi giorni a Dresda. Feci rispondere l'imperatore ed al suo arrivo disapprovò del maritaggio e lo impedì. Io ebbi gran torto, ripeté Napoleone. Io temevo che l'imperatore Francesco non mi allineassi l'animo del re di Sassonia, ma in cambio la principessa Augusta a vedermi cattivano l'animo dell'imperatore Francesco. E ora io sarei in questo lungo. All right. So Napoleon is saying that all these royals, like the Emperor of Austria gave his daughter to marry him, and he attacked him. And Alexander, the Tsar of Russia, pretended to be like his best friend for a while, and then just started violating the treaty that they supposedly made together. And he was saying that he thinks they actually did like him at times. And the very interesting thing is he's saying of all of these royals that he had formed these alliances with, the only one who didn't turn on him was the King of Saxony. And I think it's so interesting that 100 years later, Dresden, which was the capital of Saxony, was bombed for like no reason except just to kill people. I think it's very interesting that the only country that didn't turn on Napoleon got that bombing. And I wonder if that's a coincidence or if that's just some kind of, like the way people like to do things. You know, the revenge will go like 100 years, 120 years later. Because they have a very long memory for who doesn't go with them. They're very scary to go against because they have that long memory. And that's why people don't go against them. But I'm so fed up. And that's how fed up I am, because I know exactly who I'm up against. All right, so it's time for French. And yesterday, Napoleon told Lavalette that there was no one he trusts more than Lavalette. And that's why he put him in charge of the post office. And basically, Lavalette was a huge spy, and he was reading the mail. But Napoleon had someone he trusted doing it so he wouldn't abuse what he was learning. So Napoleon really was trying to find out what dangers there were. It wasn't spying to blackmail people, it was spying to actually protect the country. It's amazing that even that ever happened. You know, it wasn't like the way it is now. Anyway, so even in the book, Lavalette is saying, I'm not going to tell you what I found out. He's just going to tell his own stories. He really is a man of integrity. Okay, time to go. Okay. Peu de jours après le départ de l'empereur, je fus averti qu'une liste de prescriptions qu'on élevait au nombre de 2000 personnes s'établissait pour les soins des messieurs de Talleyrand et Fouché, sous la direction des princes, ce que Madame Duchesse d'Angoulême voulait bien y prendre une part active. Déjà beaucoup de personnes avaient pris la fuite. L'intrépide de Thibaudot, qui, peu de jeux font les retus du roi, avait protesté hautement contre son règne. À la chambre des pairs, s'appliquait à me mettre sous les yeux toutes les dangers de ma position. Les ducs de Bassano, au moment de son départ, m'engageaient à limiter promptement. Préoccupée de cette pensée qui m'a conduite était à l'abri de toute reproche, je repoussais tous les efforts de l'amitié. La princesse de Vaudemont me pressait par mille instances de me mettre à couvert, du moins pendant quelque temps. C'était l'opinion du Fouché, me disait-elle. Mais il me fallait tout ne pas savoir. Il s'écartait bien de mon frère. Le spectacle de l'horreur de ma femme souffrant des grosses des 5 mois me rendait l'idée de la fuite insupportable. Isn't it interesting? It keeps turning off. We'll see if it keeps turning off. Peu de jours après le départ de l'empereur, je fus averti qu'une liste de prescriptions, qu'on élevait au nombre de 2000 personnes, s'établissait par les soins des messieurs de Talleyrand et Fouché, sous la direction des princes, et que Madame Duchesse d'Angoulême voulait bien y prendre une part active. Déjà beaucoup de personnes avaient pris la fuite. La trépide Thibaudot, qui peu de jours avant le retour du roi, avait protesté hautement contre son règne. À la chambre des pairs, s'appliquait à me mettre sous les yeux tous les dangers de ma position. Le duc de Bassano, au moment de son départ, m'engageait à l'imiter promptement. Préoccupée de cette pensée qui me conduisait à l'abri de toute reproche, je repoussai tous les efforts de l'amitié. La princesse de Vaudemont me pressait par mille instances de me mettre à couvert. Du moins, pendant quelque temps, c'était l'opinion des Fouché, me disait-elle. Mais il me fallait un passeport. Et il se gardait bien de mon frère. Le spectacle douloureux de ma femme souffrant des grosses de 5 mois me rendait l'idée de la fuite insupportable. Du fond d'une prison, je pourrais veiller sur elle, me disais-je. Les préventions se flamberont et tout le colère royal s'excellera sans doute sur les absents. En examinant ma conduite sous toutes les faces, je n'y voyais qu'une affaire de police correctionnelle, une condamnation de 2 à 5 ans de prison peut m'être emparée des postes quelques heures avant l'arrivée de l'empereur. Familiarisée avec cet avenir, je m'obstinai dans ma résistance affreuse et j'ai proposé à la princesse de Vaudemont de lui remettre une lettre adressée à Monsieur de Talleyrand, président du ministère, dans laquelle je lui expliquerai ma conduite. Elle se chargea de la placer sous ses yeux. Dans cette lettre, j'expliquai au ministère toute ma conduite depuis la Restauration, toutes mes démarches dans la journée du 20 mars, et j'ai terminé par lui demander des juges. Je fus promptement servi à souhait. So now Napoleon's gone. It's the next chapter, and he doesn't want to just join the new people. He wants to stay outside of it, but he also knows he has to run. They're probably going to lock him up because he knows the way these people are. But his wife is pregnant, and he thinks that they're going to take their anger out on her. And he thinks even if they lock him up, they'll just lock him up for a few years and he'll still be able to like help her. So he stayed in Paris knowing they would lock him up. And they did lock him up for opening the post office. It's really scary when they're in charge because nobody stops them. And really, we have to do something. I mean, it's not been fun lately. Anyway, so we're going to look at entomarchy, where they're slowly murdering Napoleon in the cruelest way imaginable. And his Corsican doctor is being treated like a dangerous criminal by the Sentinels, and they're constantly changing the rules, and they're like maneuvering them all into house arrest and tricking them and trapping them into a prison-like situation when they're actually the good guys. And I think that should sound very familiar to people aware of my situation and other people who are very honest. This is being done to everybody all over the world, what's been done to Napoleon. I never thought they would do it to the whole world. And I've been telling this story for 4 years. So it's almost like they got their ideas from this, what they would do to everybody. But they're so good at trapping people, and they're really geniuses at trapping people. I mean, I will give them credit for that. There's no one better at trapping people and tricking people and getting people to hate each other than this group. And that's how you know that they're in charge, when it's that kind of environment. Muy bien, le dijo Napoleón, dirigios también a Hamilton, ese ministro que ha elogiado vuestras obras y que os estima, no podrá sufrir que un verdugo os niegue hasta la facultad de salir a respirar un poco de aire bajo un árbol sin hojas. Seguí pues su consejo y escribí la que sigue. Longwood, 13 de diciembre de 1819. Excelentísimo Señor, 3 meses han transcurrido desde que llegué a esta isla. Según ya en otra carta tuve el honor de anunciarlo, había alentado con las muestras de benevolencia que se ha servido darme. Me tomaré la libertad de informarle de mi situación en este sitio, a donde he venido de mi voluntad propia. Comenzó confesándole con franqueza que no entiendo por qué motivo se me quiere obligar a considerar mi condición como la de un monje, un anacoreta o un esclavo, cuando mis costumbres adquiridas de muy antiguo no pueden ser menos adecuadas al cumplimiento de los deberes que semejantes estados me impondrían en medio del océano, situado en una isla casi inhabitable, privado de toda especie de libertad. ¿Qué más me queda me temer? Tal es, sin embargo, mi situación. No basta dedicar todo mi tiempo al estudio y al alivio de la humanidad doliente en esta isla, que la naturaleza parece ha marcado con un sello de tristeza y reprobación, que hoy veo a sus habitantes huir de los contornos de Longwood con tanto temor como podrían tener en la eternidad de acercarse al infierno. Diríase que este terror de tal modo se ha apoderado de los ánimos que ha apagado en ellos todo otro sentimiento. Mis colegas participan del espanto general, como si temblasen al verme de un modo que en vez de la urbanidad que yo acostumbro usar con ellos, solo me corresponden con asperezas y desdenes. Ni me es lícito vituperarlos, pues que no pueden acercarse a mí ni decirme una sola palabra sin que las autoridades locales estén luego informadas. Hay anteojos de larga vista asestados a nuestras habitaciones y telégrafos organizados con grande cuidado que avisen inmediatamente de cuanto se pasa, a poco que quiera prolongar mis paseos fuera de los estrechos límites que nos han marcado. Tengo que admitir la compañía de un ministro del gobernador encargado de dar cuenta exacta de cuánto yo hablaré o hiciera en su presencia, de manera que para sustraerme al peligro de sus revelaciones me veo precisado a renunciar a toda relación social. Todavía hay más. Pasadas las 6:30 de la tarde, ya no se me permite pasear ni aún en el parque contiguo a mi habitación. Y lo que es mucho peor, los habitantes de Longwood que se hallan fuera a dicha hora no pueden entrar en sus casas, como así me ha sucedido ya por 3 veces. Habráse visto nunca una providencia más absurda y al mismo tiempo más tiránica, sobre todo en este clima abrasador. All right, well, here in Tumar, she's saying that they put Napoleon someplace that cannot support life. And the governor also made it totally illegal for them to talk to anybody on the island. So they isolated them, slowly killed them, and then completely kept them from talking. And witnesses were blocked off from them. So Napoleon couldn't even say hi to anyone, basically. They completely... I just want people to really see that this is a pattern of isolating people, not letting them talk. This is all what they do when they're going to kill people, because they don't want us to help each other. First they isolate them, and they block them off from communication. This is once you understand the sequence, you know what's coming. And the whole time I've been aware of this, and I've been trying to let people know, because, the way I see it is if they're going to move like that on us, I'm going to go down swinging. And I hope other people are going to join me in that. Because I feel like if you don't stand up for yourself, you're going to have to follow them where they're going. And I don't think they're going to a good place. I don't know what they think, So for me, this is a mission, so I can hopefully end up in a better place than this one. Okay, let's cause in German. Der Marschall Alvinci übernimmt das Kommando der neu gebildeten österreichischen Armee, stärker derselben das französische Heer im Rhein sowie die Sambre- und Massarmee wären in Deutschland geschlagen worden und über den Rhein zurückgegangen. Diese Erfolge trösteten den Wienerhof über seine Verluste in Italien. Es wurde ihm auf solche Weise leicht, den Stolz der Franzosen in jener Gegend zu bängen, und er gab jetzt den Befehl, eine Armee auszurüsten, welche man zur Luftwaffe, Förster befreien und die Schmack regen sollte, welche ihm in diesen Gegenden zufügte worden war. 4 Divisionen Infanterie und eine Division Kavallerie, welche in Friaul sowie 2 andere Divisionen, die in Tirol zusammengezogen wurden, bildeten vereint in hier von 60.000 Mann. Es bestanden diese Truppen aus starken Abteilungen vor der siegreichen Armee in Deutschland aus Kaders, die man von der Firmschen Armee gesogen hat und aus den gehobenen 15.000 Mann Kroaten. Das Oberkommando erhielt der Feldmarschall Alvinzi, indessen eine besonders Kurs von 18.000 Mann in Tirol, dem General Davidowik. Ein vertrauter Wort des Senats zu Venedig begünstigte insgeheim die Österreicher. Es war ihm klar und deutlich, dass das Gelingen der Sache Frankreichs der Untergang seiner Aristokratie sein müsse. Er sah täglich, wie der Geist des Volks auf dem festen Lande sich verschlimmerte und mit lauten Stimme eine Revolution herbeirufte. Der römische Hof hatte die Maske abgenommen. Er war durch die Wormsirke Niederlage schon kompromittiert und hoffte nun einzigen Österreicher Siegen seine Rettung zu finden. Keiner der Bedingungen des Waffenstillstandes von Bologna wurde mehr erfüllt. Er gewährte mit Schrecken, dass der französische General sonderte und mit verstellter Mäßigung und zivilisierte Unterhandlung den Augenblick des Strafgerichtsbischof befahl übrigens wohl Entzucken über die in Deutschland errungenen Vorteile und ganz genau von der geringen Einzahl der Franzosen sowie von der großen Menge ihrer Kranken unterrichtet. Er festigte daher physische durch Aushebung von Truppen und zugleich moralisch in Bewegung, indem er mit der Hilfe der Kloster und Bewaffen die Meinung verbreitete, dass die Franzosen nur schwach wären, die Macht der Österreicher aber unwiderstehlich sei. Guter Zustand des französischen Heeres, die Stimmung der Völker Italiens ist denselben günstig. Der französische General hoffte länger Zeit auf neue Bestärkungen. Er hatte dem Direktorien mit kräftigen Worten vorgestellt, dass entweder die Nordarmee wiederum über den Rhein vordringen, aber man ihm 50.000 Mann schicken musste. Man versprach und hielt nie fort. Alle Hilfe, die man ihm sendete, beschränkte sich auf 4 Regimenter, die außer der Wende kamen, wo jetzt ein besserer Geist zu herrschen begann. Diese Regimenter zusammen ungefähr 8000 Mann starke Treffen binnen einem Zeitraum von 2 Monaten nach und nach ein und gewährten eine große Hilfe, dadurch sie der Verlust, den die letzten Monate herbeigeführt hatten, ersetzte und die Armee wiederum auf ihren eigentlichen Bestand von 30.000 Mann unter den Waffen gebracht wurde. Die Nachrichten aus Tirol, Friol, aus Venedig, Rom sprachen immer während von großen Rüstungen gegen die Franzosen. Aber diesmal gab die aufgestockene Stimmung der Wolke, verbunden mit anderen Umstauden Italien und den nun eintretenden Verhältnissen ein ganz anderes Ansehen. Es war nicht mehr wie vor den Schlachten bei Lonato und Castiglione die Wunder, welche die Franzosen getan und die zahlreichen Niederlagen der Österreicher hatten die öffentliche Meinung umgestaltet. Damals glaubten 3/4 von Italien, dass es den Franzosen ganz unmöglich sein würde, ihre Eroberungen zu behaupten. Jetzt glaubten die 3/4 des nämlichen Italiens nicht mehr, dass es in der Macht Österreichs sei, sie ihnen jemals wieder so entreißen. Man machte viel Lärmen von der Ankunft der aus Frankreich eingetreffenen 4 Regimenter. Sie marschierten in Bataillonen und bildeten zunächst 12 Kolonnen, wie dann überhaupt alle Maßregeln genommen werden, um einander und zum Teil auch bei der Armee die Meinung zu verbreiten, dass eine Verstärkung von 12 Regimentern stattfinde. Good night.